All right, hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You're here with Tom and George.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, George. We have much to talk about today. We're going to go through the day. We're going to go through the week. Some of the Bitcoin miners / high performance computing stocks. That's our new lingo. Were on fire today, and they were on fire this week. Bitcoin was just fine. I think it had a good week. Cryptocurrency we'll get into. We're going to talk about the bill that was not, that may hopefully be sometime in the future. We're going to talk about quantum computing as well. And a bunch of the Bitcoin miners had some news this week. So we have a long list of stuff to talk about. And a lot of people out there, I'll tell you, I'll just start off by telling you, last night, I rarely do this, but I typed Bitcoin into YouTube and I just watched what people were talking about. And it was pretty gloomy out there. It was, for the most part, everybody was predicting bad things. So I'd be interested to see how everybody here is feeling. But first,
bad news, Tom. All over the place. Bad news.
It's all, well, that's according to what I watched last night. Now, spoiler alert, I don't think bad news is coming. So you're going to get a little bit of the opposite here today. But we're going to go through reality. I understand everything isn't sunshine and roses. And there's a bumpy, volatile road ahead. But I'm not worried so much as I see everybody else out there being worried. If you could do us a favor and smash the like button, it's a huge help to the channel. We're really trying to get people here. We're going for 100 likes. Everybody's given up on what used to be known as the Bitcoin miners. We are now calling them the Bitcoin miners / high performance computing data center AI stocks, whatever you want to call them. They got their hands in energy, and it's making a difference. And you'll see, we had some double-digit moves today. And on the week, almost everything was a double-digit move, all to the upside. This year has started out with a bang, and we'll see. It's only January 16th, so it's not time to get ahead of ourselves here yet. But this is a lot of good stuff. And the other thing is, I try to put these, we do this every Friday for 4.5 years or 5 years now, whatever it is. And right, there's a level of two things. There's a level of patience that's required to trade in this space. And there's a level of volatility tolerance to trade in this space. And if you don't have both of those, this can be extremely frustrating. And if you do have both of those, this can still be frustrating. But I'm going to just pick one stock. You've got Riot at $19. Riot's up almost 50% since December 31st. And again, it's January 16th. These are the kind of moves these companies can make in a couple of weeks, never mind a couple of months or the right year. So there is a payoff if you can wait for it, right? I mean, I bought IREN almost 10 months ago now for $6, and it's just under $60 now. So, there's, and on the flip side, Marathon is lingering at $11, right? So that's been a really tough one for a lot of people. Having said that, I got to buy 2 or 3 times in the $9 and $10 range. So I chose the dollar cost average in. A lot of people might have got out of there. We're going to talk, I see some comments in there. Riot made a deal today, and we talked about that specifically on Tuesday. I really talked about 2 things. One of which was, I thought, the best opportunities. Riot has yet to announce a deal. And they've allocated a lot of resources. So sure enough, that announcement came subsequently, and it's up huge. And BitDeer is a stock. I don't get it. People are just sleeping on BitDeer now. It ran up really big this week. It's run up really big this month. So, but even with all of that, this was a really good week to own BitDeer. We'll take a look at the week to date and the month to date and the year to date, which are the same because it's January. But there's still moves out there, in my opinion. But let's see where you guys are at. Let's just start easy.
Sorry, my daughter was sick. Or she is sick.
Oh, good.
No, she got the... Dude, anytime you fly now, you get sick. I don't know why that is. It almost seems like a given.
Yeah, that plane is a breeding ground. All right, we're going to start super generic. We got a poll going. Are you bullish or bearish on Bitcoin/Bitcoin related, which is the Bitcoin mining stocks, all things cryptocurrency, Microstrategy, the other treasury companies? Are you bullish or are you bearish for the year 2026? Because I can tell you.
For the whole year?
Yeah, for the year. Are you bullish or bearish? Because, the narrative out there right now is the 4-year cycle's over, and this is crypto winter on the way. I heard more of that. That was the main, and obviously everybody has a little bit of a different opinion, but I will also tell you, after watching a bunch of YouTube videos, it does seem like maybe somebody popular somewhere said something, and everybody else said the same thing, because there's no way people are moving in unison on certain indicators that I'm not even going to mention because I think they're irrelevant. But I just heard so many people talking about that as evidence that, it's the bull market's over. We're in a crypto winter and it's going to get a lot worse. And, the sky is falling. And I'm just not feeling any of that at all. Am I off base? Are they off base?
I think you could be a little off base.
You think maybe I'm a little bit out of order?
Yeah, I think you're a little bit too... You had too much sugar today or something.
Well, that's usually true.
I think we're in, I think looking back at the year 2026, it's going to be described as an ice cream called Rocky Road. Okay.
There's your volatility.
Yeah, it's going to be Rocky Road. But just, you know what I mean? Every time you take that bite, you don't know if you're going to get, marshmallow, caramel, chocolate, right? You don't know what you're going to get. And I think that's kind of how the market is right now. You don't know one day to the next what's going to happen. We think we do, but we have no idea.
Well,
we know that we don't think there's going to be a rate cut this month. That's almost a given.
That seems like a given at this point. But what you just said is important to dissect. We don't know what's going to happen one day to the next. And that is a statement I agree with 100%. And that's why I framed this. Are you bullish or bearish for the year? Because one of the things, if everybody hasn't figured this out, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? You may think you're right, but you got a 50-50. It's going to go up or it's going to go down. You can flip a coin, because today, tomorrow, who knows? But what are the macro things happening that ultimately are going to affect the year this year? And that's why I framed the question this way. And I think we are just moving from a macro standpoint where there's some politics and geopolitics that maybe are going against us a little bit, but monetary policy, every other thing to me, seems to be lining up for a 2026 run for Bitcoin and for other cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin. And with that said, the Bitcoin mining companies, which were, 2025 was very difficult. So 2026, but we'll take a look. We're going to take a look at all those numbers, 2025 versus 2026. There was a lot of successful Bitcoin miners in 2025. Most of them had a lot to do with the fact that they were early adopters in the AI data center part of the business. And that is still true. And I think the big movers this year, even though I think Bitcoin's going to have a big year, so the people that have a big hodl position, which is fewer and fewer, they're going to get the value on that Bitcoin as it goes up. Marathon, that everybody, it's everybody's favorite stock to hate. They do have 53,000 Bitcoin or more maybe now. And, if Bitcoin goes up, they're going to go up proportionate to their Bitcoin at a minimum. But the companies that are building out their AI infrastructure, that are getting deals, right? There's deals happening now. It's not just some future, I hope or I wish. So, we saw Riot move on a deal today. So I do believe there's a lot more to come. I think 2026 is only the beginning, right? The amount of power, these are data centers. This is all power driven. And at this point, if you read any article, there's one thing that's absolutely 100% agreed on. The choke point in this entire AI deal is power. The power grid just cannot support the need that is already here, never mind what's coming. So these are all turning into direct plays on power and data centers. So this is even, there may be AI companies that win, there may be AI companies that fail, but we've been saying for a couple of years now, these are the picks and shovel plays. And that is the power, and that need is just going to continue to increase. There was a lot of headlines today regarding energy and a shortage of energy in the United States in particular. But I know there's a lot of countries all over the world where, energy is a big deal. If you just got here, or if you have not yet, if you could please smash the like button. It helps us a lot. It's most appreciated. Helps us in real time because we got some stuff to talk about. We got to talk about whether quantum computers are going to end cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in specific, because if I'm to believe everything I read, we're in deep trouble.
You know what?
I don't necessarily believe everything I read. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I really dove into quantum computing, and the one thing that people just don't understand is this. Would you say the static condition or the purity of the condition that has to be in order for these quantum computers to work? And I think that's what people just cannot understand, how much it's going to warp the results. They just can't comprehend it.
You're right. The first thing is, the main technology, and there's other versions they're trying to work on, but 95% of the quantum technology, and we're going to get into this a little bit more with some specifics later, but 95% of the quantum technology requires your machines getting down to very near 0 Kelvin, which is absolute zero. First of all, the amount of energy it takes to do that is so burdensome. You think AI centers are an energy problem? Try keeping your machines at negative hundreds and hundreds of degrees. That's got to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That even can't be 99.9% uptime, because if it's not that, everything's ruined. So,
well, and then you also got humidity.
You've got humidity. You've got the fact that the other thing is, really, there are no actual working quantum computers. And for those of you who will go, well, I saw an article that said A quantum computer solved a problem in 10 minutes that it would have taken a regular computer 50 trillion years to solve. And that sounds like hyperbole, but I've seen those articles time after time. If you read them, if you research them, you will debunk them on your own, right? Don't listen to me. I'm nobody. Go look at it yourself. This is the ultimate FUD that they are throwing on us. And I'm going to show you guys a bunch of it, and we'll talk about what you think, what I think.
And another thing, Tom, what do you think happens first? And I think it's this. Do you think space travel happens first or quantum computers?
I don't know that quantum computers are ever going to happen. And a lot of people are going to say, well, you're burying your head in the sand. But here's why I say that. They have a very limited scope of what they're better at than regular computers. So even when we get quantum computers, it's not like, oh, everything's going to be a quantum computer. There's only a few things, and it's algorithm driven, that they're better at than regular supercomputers. So one, the demand is low. Two, we're 10 or 15 years from a technological standpoint, if things go our way, from even having a workable quantum computer to any scale. By then, what are the supercomputers going to be doing? So, is the quantum computer that we hope to have 10 or 15 years from now going to be as good as the supercomputer that we know we're going to have 10 or 15 years from now? Because we've already seen the exponential curve on computing, regular computing. So I just think it's going to be a demand issue. I don't know that quantum computing is ever going to be a big part of the ecosystem. That's what I believe. I mean, we are years and years. And if you read the art, again, don't take my word for any of this. Go fact check all of this yourself. The people who are ultra optimistic feel like we're a decade away from, a high functioning quantum computer. Most people think it's more like 15 years. And then we're going to see how that applies to cryptocurrency, because that's just the fact that we're 10 or 15 years away is only step one, because then a lot of people argue, well, that's going to get here faster than and then if it gets here a little faster than you think, everything's ruined. But we're going to look into that too. Are you bullish or bearish on Bitcoin in 2026? Right now we're at 75% bullish, 25% bearish. Vote if you're on a device that you can vote on. And please, if you would smash the like button, the thumbs up button, if you're on a device, you can do that. It does help the stream in real time. We gotta get the word out.
About the bird.
Have you heard?
No.
I wanted to read. I read somebody was saying, I think it was Alexander. Yeah. In all caps. That's why it grabbed my attention. But don't everybody put everything in all caps, please. Thanks for being a member, by the way, Alexander, longtime member. Said, not buying a single miner this year. Enough is enough. So Alexander's done buying. My question would be, are you going to hold? And do you think you're going to get a run up on what you've invested and you're just not throwing any more new money? Or do you think this is good money after bad and it's time to get out? I converted I had options that I bought a long time ago that were January 16th, 2026 Bitfarms options. So, it was time. Today is January 16th. So this week I had to decide. I exercised those options. So, and they were up. I mean, these were 50-cent options. I had them at 50 cents, $1, and $1.50. And, I got them for pennies. Back when Bitfarms, I'm sorry, they're on Bitfarms if I hadn't said that already. So it's options on Bitfarms. So I exercised them all So in that regard, you know, I kind of not quite doubled down on my Bitfarms, but you know, I went all in. I didn't buy anything else this week at all. So I made no purchases this week, but I did convert a significant number of shares of Bitfarms from options to owning them. And so far it's paid off. You know, it's only been a few days, but I think we're at the beginning. Sourmon Gaming said the only decent thing Mara has is their HODL. And Fred bought a lot of it, I think, near the peak. You know, they got, here's the bottom line. If we're near a peak, I mean, where is Bitcoin going? And that's the next poll we're going to do, because depending on where Bitcoin goes, depends on how much money they're going to make. Right? If Bitcoin doubles and you got 50-something thousand Bitcoin, you know, you're making billions of dollars if you're Marathon. They stand to make more money in 2025 than their market cap is. That's a realistic scenario. So that would mean they're trading at less than 1 times price earnings if that occurs. Find me another functioning company where that's true. I don't think you'll be able to find one. I've never seen anything that looks anything like that at all. And I'm not the biggest Marathon cheerleader. Listen, I do not think they are the best Bitcoin miner. I think they have a ton of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They have a very strong balance sheet, and they are a big company, and they're going to continue to scale up. So I think they're just fine, right? That's my, you know, I would put them in the middle of the pack, if you will. Now, they're from a size standpoint, they're one of the big dogs, not in market cap anymore, but in exahash and all that stuff. But, you know, I think they're a middle of the pack type of a company. I just don't think they're, you know, they're priced in at, you know, at being an F. They're priced in at failure. Even now with a pretty big run up, if I go to Marathon's chart, right? I mean, zoom out just a little bit. Marathon in November of 2024, now that's 14 months ago now. This was a $30 stock. 2 weeks ago, this was trading in the 8s. So it's basically got to triple from here just to get back to where it was in November of 2024. I'm not saying it's going to triple, but could it double? I mean, it's done. It did that in July of 2025. It did more than that in October of 2025. That was not too long ago. So just to get back to where we were a few months ago, that is over a double for Marathon. So is that unrealistic? You'd have a hard time convincing me that that's an unreasonable scenario. You might not think it's going to happen, but it's certainly not unreasonable to think that with really no news, and by the way, they have quite literally no news. They have no press releases between those two dates. I believe they've won on November 4th. And then they've been radio silent ever since. So we'll see, you know, what the next news that comes out of there is. They don't do monthly updates anymore. Most of the Bitcoin miners have abandoned their monthly operation reports. Not all. I still like those. I think it's a very good resource or tool as an investor to see what's going on and know what's going on. And not every single month is going to be perfect, but it doesn't, you know, that shouldn't be the yardstick. But I think what's happening is they have stopped issuing these monthly reports because they don't want to, these Bitcoin miners don't want to be associated with Bitcoin. That's what's going on. So
it's kind of crazy when you think about it.
It is crazy. But that's the reality. The Bitcoin miners don't want to be. And by the way, some of the Bitcoin miners are weaning out of Bitcoin mining. Some of them are already all the way out. Some of them are getting out, and they will be out. Many of the companies on our list will not mine Bitcoin when the next halving occurs.
And I think that only strengthens ABTC, by the way.
They are now the only pure play Bitcoin miner. They're not the biggest, not by a long shot, but they are the only pure play. They are not giving monthly operational reports, which is frustrating to me. They are a straight up pure play Bitcoin miner. They might as well lean into it because they don't participate in energy, data centers, high performance computing. Zeros. That's 0% of their revenue. It's 0% of their forecasted revenue. It's not a part of their plan. That is the spinoff of Hut 8's Bitcoin mining. So they're a Bitcoin miner. They might as well lean into it, or else they're nothing. So if I was them, I would start doing monthly operational reports. That's my 2 cents, which is what it's worth.
I mean, I don't think it would. It can only hurt him.
Operational reports?
Yeah.
Well, right now they're just radio silent. Wouldn't you like to know? Hey, even if they went from 24 exahash to 25 exahash, I guess it would hurt them if they've added no exahash, they've added no Bitcoin, and they're mining less every month and month. Well, then they are a company in decay. But I don't think that's their business model. Year-to-date leaderboard, IREN 1, Riot 2, BTDR 3. So we're going to take a look at that. You guys, I think some of you will be shocked what these companies have already done. And I would just caution people to take the position that, wow, that with that much already done, it's too late. But I would also caution people at the same time to understand when we get these vicious run-ups, the volatility is real. That if there's one statement we could say on this channel, the volatility is real. Miners 2025 said Bitfarms is a sleeping giant. Oh, I got an article from Bitfarms. I got to make that note or I'll forget to get to it. They actually did have an announcement, and I think good things are coming from Bitfarms, and I think it's because they're finally doing what George told them to do 3.5 years ago, and it's going to make a big difference.
When is that supposed to happen?
There's still not a date, but they put something out about it today. You want to go there? Let me see if I can find here. Well, it wasn't today. It was 2 days ago. Bitfarms announces board chair transition in anticipation of U.S. re-domiciliation. So, meaning they're moving from being a Canadian company to a U.S. company. They're traded on the NASDAQ, but they're not a U.S. company. It's a foreign company right now. They opened a headquarters in New York, and now they're reorganizing their board of directors in anticipation of this.
Absolute idiots if they go to New York.
Well, they're going to New York. I know. I don't just. Their headquarters is going to New York. Their operations aren't going to New York. Their operations are going to mostly to the United States.
I'd go to Texas. I mean, I can't even comprehend that.
There's 5 or 6 states that are winning the Bitcoin miner business.
So they're going to go to the state, basically the only state that outlawed Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, but they're headquartering in New York City, where the stock exchange is. I
understand.
So I don't think you're going to see any. We've already seen a few Bitcoin miners that went out of business because they were trying to do stuff in New York. So I don't think you're going to see them do anything there. They just consider that the financial headquarters of the universe, and they want to be a U.S. company, and they're going to be a U.S. company. And they're going to be a U.S. company. And if they can get their stock price consistently over $5, the institutional adoption has yet to begin on Bitfarms.
I have to be careful what I say now, Tom. I have to shut up. If you know what I mean? That's a really smart move. That's very smart. I don't know what my problem is.
Alexander said his portfolio is up 48% year to date. Congratulations. And then he said, I want to at least double before I get out. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, in my opinion, are an easy double. Now, nothing's easy in investing, and this run's already been so difficult, it's a little late to say easy. But
even with New York taxes, I know.
Yeah, it's... But their operations, you know, the data centers that are running in Texas, you know, are gonna be subject to Texas, not New York.
They get their pound of flesh, trust me.
No doubt. No doubt. They're not leaving any money on the table. That's for sure. I don't know. For some reason, I no longer see how many likes we have, George. So if you know, let us know. And for those of you who just got here, or if you have not yet done so, please smash the like button. Helps the stream out. Okay, so this is what, you know, so this is not some kind of major announcement, but this is a high-profile person who has, here. Today announced Edie Hofmeister has been appointed as chair of the board of Bitfarms. This appointment supports Bitfarms' previously announced strategy of redomiciling to the United States. Ms. Hofmeister succeeds Brian Howlett, who has served as director since 2020 and chairman since 2024. Mr. Howlett will continue to serve as an independent director. So this is a new chair of the board. So, you know, that's a big deal. And here, as an American business leader, she has successfully guided multinational companies through public and private offerings, New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ listings, debt financing, joint ventures, complex litigation, multi-billion-dollar acquisitions. Drawing on her deep understanding of U.S. corporate and securities law, she has played a pivotal role in shaping governance practicing aligned with American standards. From 2010 to 2019, she served as EVP of Corporate Affairs and General Counsel for Tahoe Resources. Whereas as first employee, she helped build the company from a startup to a mid-cap precious metals producer. So this is another step. I mean, I think, you know, I don't know what the day is that this happens, but, you know, it can't come soon enough as far as I'm concerned. It just makes a difference. For those of you that don't know why bother, you might say, institutional money in the United States, and there's tens upon tens of trillions of dollars of it. A lot of them have guidelines. They are significantly less likely to invest in a foreign company, even if that company is listed on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. So it greatly increases your chances that way. And also, even though this is totally arbitrary, there is the $5 rule of thumb. If your stock's trading under $5, a lot of endowment funds, a lot of institutional money, just they will not buy your stock if you're under $5. And it's arbitrary because the price of a stock is arbitrary. It has more to do with its market cap. There's $5 stocks worth of, you know, $500 billion, and there's $10 stocks worth, you know, $10 million. So, but in any event, it is what it is. They got to move to New York. They got to get over $5. And if and when they do that, they're going to get a run on top of that. That's my opinion. That's how I'm looking at Bitfarms. And I think they've made the moves they need to do in order to do that. And again, they've had to drastically change their plans. 2025 was nothing short of a train wreck for Bitfarms. But what it also was an opportunity to buy them at 68 cents a share. You know, between 68 and 80 cents a share for months and months. So, you know, I did that, fortunately. And
is that the lowest they got was 68 cents? I think it was
68 cents. Now, they got lower than that in the crypto winter, but this was in the middle of the crypto summer. They were at 68 cents. They got, by the way, they ran from there to over $6. So, and now they're back down around 3. So, okay, they're 50% off of their high, but they're still 5 times their low of last year, not of all time. So, again, speaks to the volatility. But I believe, you know, my thesis, the stocks that I own, it's my belief they will take out their 2025 highs in 2026.
But here's my question, Tom. Do you think they just take them out and then retreat, or do you think they take them out and that's just the beginning?
It's going to be a mixed bag. I think some of them, that's only going to be the beginning, and they're going to keep running. I think others that I have less confidence in, I'll probably start taking more profits on those as they reach their previous all-time highs. But we're going to just have to pay attention and see what's going on with these companies as they go. This, and, you know, I'm a year into it and I was late. This energy thing, this data center thing is a game changer. There is so much money in this. Now, it's CapEx intensive, but so is Bitcoin mining. So that's not really a change. And they're able to borrow money for the most part, convertible debt or just straight debt, versus all those at the market offerings in 2023 and 2024 that were making people crazy, right? Those days seem to be behind us. So I like the business models a lot better, and they're a lot less volatile to the cycle of Bitcoin. And I think the cycle of Bitcoin has changed anyway. So, you know, it's every reason under the sun, in my opinion, to be long-term optimistic in the right companies. Not everybody's going to win. I understand that, right? Some will do better than others. Some will fail altogether, like what already happened. Remember, we used to have 18 stocks on the list prior to the last halving. I think we had to drop 8, or we voted to drop 8 of them off the list because they were now microcap and nano cap stocks. They had lost so much value. And I think this list will cut in half again at the next halving. So, and I think we're starting to see those companies that are getting a leg up, but we'll see. There's a lot of time left for these companies to do what they need to do to succeed. Alexander, I think if Jerome Powell stays around there, he's going to be somewhat persona non grata, and the chair has so much influence that once he's not the chair anymore, I'm responding to Alexander saying, new Fed chair, Powell might still elect to hang on as one of the electors and influence the decisions negatively. So they rotate who gets to vote if you're not the chair. And so, you know, his member, he can be, he can be on the Fed, I think, for 2 more years. But you don't vote in every single vote if you're not the chair. And it's just look at the history of what the Fed has done. There's very few dissenting votes. Most moves have no dissenting votes. So it's a follow the leader type of a game. And And let's see what you guys think. I think we're getting a lot of rate cuts. I think people are going to be just surprised from a rate cut standpoint, not from Jerome Powell. Now, to be clear, his last day is May 15th, I believe. So that's only a few months away. The rest of the year is going to be on somebody else's watch. So let's end this poll. Are you bullish or bearish on Bitcoin? So 71% bullish, 29% bearish. For the year 2026, George, what are you? What's your...
I'm a mixed bag.
You're
Let's
both...
put it this way. I'm not doing anything, so I'm not like gonna sell anything or buy anything. I think I'm just gonna go to sleep and pretend like this year never happened.
You're a hold right now.
Yeah,
you're just gonna let this year unfold because you think there's gonna be some good things, some bad things, and we'll see where it all lands.
Yep. I just don't think you can play it any other way.
There's a lot out there. You know, Sour Melon Game is saying a shutdown would mean we miss even more economic data. We're 2 weeks away from another potential government shutdown here in the United States. So, that's not helpful. That would be nice if they could find a way to just keep the government open and do their job, but that doesn't seem to be likely.
Only thing I'm kind of concerned about is AI and taking a lot of jobs.
I mean, that's a big narrative.
I don't think people understand how much that's going to happen.
The question you got to ask yourself is,
I feel lucky.
Do you feel lucky? No, that's another question. Every single technological breakthrough in history has ultimately led to more jobs. And I understand why people think that AI is different and it's going to take jobs, but people thought the computer was different. Oh, the computer can do, I was in the field of accounting. Well, I can do my job 100 times faster now. So I guess we only need 1/100th the number of accountants. The problem is the firm I left had about 120,000 employees when I left, and they have 400,000 employees now. So they didn't need less accountants. They needed more. They all just did a lot more, and everybody's making a lot more money, and everybody's a lot more efficient. So I don't know what the equation is. It's a fair question. This is something different. It's something new. It's something different. Is it going to take jobs away net? That's the question, right? Because some jobs it will take. Will it make other ones? I don't know. And is there maybe short-term pain and long-term gain? Or vice versa? I don't know. So it's a fair point, and it's a big deal. Listen, AI is a big deal. So, and it's, I won't even get into the nuance that it's a misnomer.
Why do you think we need so many data centers? Well, why do you think, have you gone deep into it to figure out exactly like how much petahash is going to be out there? I mean, what's the reason behind it? I guess that's the question.
So when you have one conversation with, I'm going to insert large language model here. Right now when people talk about AI, first of all, it's not AI at all, but again, that's semantics. It's a large language model, which are predictive algorithms. They are doing on the magnitude of billions of what equates to calculations per second. So when you ask it one question, if it's complicated, I've had conversations where it's had to do multi-trillions of calculations to have a 15-minute conversation with me. Just the sheer computing power that takes. And I'm one person talking about one thing, right? You get 100 million people on there doing that. There's nothing that compares to the demand that these things draw. And it's based on how they work. And it's not like, well, someone's going to make a better one and it's going to take less. Now, I understand DeepSeek does things a little differently and they claim to be more efficient. But ultimately, you can't get away. It's a token-based system, and I'm not going to do a deep dive, but I'll just throw enough out there. If anybody who cares, look up how tokens work. Every large language model is token-based. And as a function of that, it requires monumental amounts of calculations. Now, what it does, let's be honest, it's almost magic. The conversation, it is conversationally fluent. It's wrong a lot, so I'll put that out there. Be careful. That's not the final word on things because it can be just as wrong as it can be right. And there's also an industry term called a hallucination. It can just start making things up completely. Its primary objective, every single one of the large language models, primary objective is to sound fluent. The second objective is to, for lack of a better term, not piss off the customer. So to be nice, to be agreeable, to say what the consensus says, irrespective of the truth. And that's not me saying it. If you go ask, just go to ChatGPT or to Grok or to Gemini and ask them, do you value my feelings more or the truth more? And they'll all tell you. They'll just tell you straight up. But the point of all that was it requires an enormous amount of computing power, and they're only just getting started. And there's more applications to come. Let's get a new poll. Are you bullish or bearish? So we're about 70-30 bullish on Bitcoin this year. I am bullish on the year, but to George's point, I get it. There's what if we have a government shutdown in 2 weeks? That's the rocky road aspect. I think that we're talking about. There's all manner of roadblocks in the way where we could have some rough times in the middle of what I think is still a larger part of a bull market.
I don't think it's a barrier. I think it's a barrier, meaning not B-E-A-R. I think it's a B-E-E-R.
Grin and bear it?
No, B-E-E-R. I think that's the only way you get through this year.
It's a beer year?
Yeah, drink.
From the guy who doesn't drink.
I think if you drink, grab another. You'll do just fine.
Let's see. What were we? Oh. Just typing up a new poll real quick. Do us a favor and smash the like button if you just got here or if you haven't yet.
I guess I should I? No, I don't think it jinx. I sold a commercial building. So when people say that the economy, it's not, I didn't get what I wanted for it, but I sold it quickly. So I'm happy. If you look at it that way. So when people say things aren't moving, things are moving. They're just not moving for the price that you want. Does that make sense?
Well, it's not. We were in a world, and every market, real estate's local,
right?
So there's markets where people are bidding above ask.
I think Georgia is a lot better than Florida as far as in Atlanta, which is weird, but I think it's a lot stabler up there than it is down here. I think right now we're in a flux. And did you see that they hired a person and the name of the department in Florida is called FAFO?
No way.
I am dead serious.
What are they claiming that stands for?
Financial Auditor Freedom Organization or something like that. Oh my goodness, Tom. They found $1.6 billion already. And guess what they decided that they're going after?
Is this their version of Doge?
Yep. Guess what they decided they're going after?
What?
School districts.
Oh boy. Well, I
It's
think it almost doesn't matter what rock you look under. You're going to find something.
Oh yeah, I can't even imagine.
And that's as good a place to start as any. I'm just going to read the poll. I'm putting a new poll up. Fed rate cuts in 2026. Are we going to get, and I'm going to show you an article that's going to talk about this. Are we going to get no Fed rate cuts? As per JP Morgan, and I'm going to read that article. JP Morgan is saying the next thing the Fed's going to do is raise rates. We'll get to that article in a second.
Oh my God.
So no cuts. We're going to raise rates. So are we going to get 0 in 2026? Are we going to get 25 basis points, 50 basis points, 75 basis points or more? I want to show you what the market thinks is going to happen this year. And then I want to show you that article from JP Morgan. And you guys can tell me if they're making sense or if somebody's... Do
you think, Tom, that there could be a rate increase before he leaves?
No. I think the chances of a rate increase are 0.0 of that being next. That's my opinion. And if you could bet on it on Polymarket or anything, I would. So here's the next meeting, January 28th, 2026. So that's a couple weeks from now. A week and a half from now. 95% chance that we are not going to get a rate cut. So you could take that to the bank. Unless some black swan event occurs between now and, 2 Wednesdays from now, we are not getting a rate cut in January. The market knows it. It's at 95%. It's been even a little higher than that at some points. So that's out. But here's what I want to show you the market thinks is going to happen for the year. So right now we're at 350 to 375. If I go to the last meeting of the year, which is December 9th, 12% of the people are still at 3, and this is not percent of the people. This is actually this is based on the CME Fed Watch futures. This is the probability based on what people are doing. So almost a 12% chance of no rate cuts, a 30% chance of just 25 basis points for the year, a 32% chance of 50 basis points for the year, an 18% chance of 75 basis points for the year. I will tell you, this is now at this would be 1.5 basis points for the year. 1.5 basis points of cuts. That is at a 0.1% chance. I believe that's the most likely case scenario. So we're going to watch this all year. And you guys can tell me if I'm crazy. 1.5's a lot, but guess what? It's by no means unprecedented. In fact, it's much more common than this dripping faucet over the course of years that we're doing. And you can see it's been a nightmare for the economy. The Fed stinks, that's my opinion. Right? That's what I think of what the Fed's done for the last 3 years. 3 full years, if not 4. And again, obviously, who knows? Hindsight's 2020, but I think they've pretty much gotten almost every single month wrong for 3.5 years. I don't think you could try and do this bad. So I think there's going to be a big turnaround in philosophy. There's a lot of other macro things happening that are going to set that up, in my opinion. Alexander said yesterday, Jim Cramer turns 100% bearish on Bitcoin. So we view that as good news. Let me find this article because it's worth. Here, JP Morgan sees Fed's next move an interest rate increase. Crypto bulls talk about cuts. So those in the crypto market are anticipating rate cuts. JP Morgan's anticipating rate hikes. JP Morgan predicted the Federal Reserve will hold rates unchanged in 2026 and then hike them next year, being 2027. So does anybody think that this is what's going to happen? And if this is what's going to happen, do you think we're going to have anything other than a horrendously bad year? If we go 12 months without a rate cut and then we get a rate hike, what's happening on a macroeconomics level? What's happening in the United States and in the world if that's the next 15 months? I don't see any other scenario than bad things. I think this is nonsense. I think they know it's nonsense. Again, that's my opinion. I don't believe anybody at JP Morgan thinks this is what's going to happen, but that's, I guess, only the person who wrote this truly knows what they believe.
Bearish.
We bought Snake Oil, said JP Morgan is the ultimate inverse Kramer. I mean, this is, to me, this is just FUD. I don't know. It just boggles my mind, the information that's put out there. And so it's classic to see that. And I didn't see Jim Cramer do that, but I saw everybody else everybody I watched on YouTube yesterday. And again, from time to time, and not that often because I'm usually doing my own homework, I just type in Bitcoin in YouTube and see what comes up. And I type in Bitcoin, set the parameter to the last 24 hours so that I get all, new stuff and see what people are talking about. And it was almost across the board. People were, the sky is falling. This indicator, that indicator, crypto winner. I won't say without exception. There was one person that I watched that thought we were going to have a bounce, but it was overwhelmingly negative. So to me, overwhelmingly negative is good. That means maybe they're about done bringing the pain, but again, we're 2 weeks away from an event. We're either going to get a government shutdown or some type of action from the U.S. government 2 weeks from now, because there is a deadline. And right now, the Democrats
is sentiment value, if it shuts down, is that bad? Or is it to the point where no one really cares?
No, if the government shuts down, here's the thing. I don't know that the act of shutting down is a big deal when it starts to get like it did last time. Last time was 40-something days. It was the longest shutdown in history. When we start getting to the point, we cannot get to the point where people in the military are not getting paid. That's kind of my red line. It's like, you guys want to mess around and prove how far to the right you are and how far to the left you are and how everybody else is the bad guy. Right? The left and right couldn't agree on pick a color. It's gotten to the point of ridiculousness. Which is why I just saw a poll that 45% of Americans consider themselves independent, neither Republican nor Democrat. Because they're not doing a service to anybody, not agreeing on anything and shutting the government down. And again, so to your initial question, if the government shuts down for 10 days, no big deal. If the government shuts down for 40 days or 60 days or 90 days, it's a huge deal. So something's going to have to give somewhere. I hope we get no shutdown at all, but I don't know. Does anybody trust? Let's do that poll. So let's take a look at what we got here. Fed rate cuts. So 0% of you think that we're going to get no rate cuts this year. So maybe I'm not as crazy as I think, because I think that sounds like crazy talk. 0 rate cuts this year. 11% think we're going to get 25 basis points. 36% think we're going to get 50 basis points. And 54%, so a simple majority, think we're going to get at least 75 basis points, if not more. So I think this is much more realistic than what the futures are building in. And I believe it's because everybody's being pounded over the head with this type of information where you're looking and going, whoa, JP Morgan says they're going to raise rates. What? I guess we're not getting any rate cuts. Too many people are buying into that. I think this poll is correct. That's my opinion. I think there's no chance of that. Understanding that means approaching 0. Nothing's ever truly absolute 0, but I don't think there's any even remote case scenario where that happens. That's all I have to say about that. So let's take a look. We'll take a timeout here. You got a poll that we can get up?
No poll.
Let me
I can't even think of a poll.
Let me get something going, because I got a bunch of them going on.
No poll.
All right, we're going to talk about this in a bit. Will quantum computers negatively affect Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, yes.
So here, let me get you the first article, and then I'll show you some more later. But I want to start here. Jefferies strategist Christopher Wood drops Bitcoin for gold on quantum computing concern. So Christopher Wood at Jefferies Global Headquarters of Equity Strategy swapped a 10% Bitcoin allocation. So this is somebody who was, I don't want to say all in, but a 10% allocation is massive. So he went from a 10% allocation, and based on his fears on quantum computing, took that allocation of Bitcoin down to 0. So swapped his 10% Bitcoin allocation with gold on concern that quantum computing could weaken Bitcoin's security case. Christopher Wood, head of equity strategies, removed a 10% Bitcoin allocation from his model portfolio, citing long-term security concerns posed by advances in quantum computing. In his Greed and Fear newsletter, Wood said he split the allocation into 5% physical gold and 5% gold mining stocks. So that's all 10%. His portfolio now has no Bitcoin in it, and it's because of quantum computers. While many developers say quantum computers do not pose an immediate threat to Bitcoin, growing attention and funding for post-quantum tools shows that long-term risks are starting to shape investor decisions. I will tell you, I'm going to show you some more articles. We'll talk about this more later. I don't know what this person believes. Maybe they did reallocate their 10% and they're afraid of this. But if they are, I believe it's because they've bought into the hype. And I'm going to talk specifics about this because to me, this is FUD to the point of it's almost nonsensical in my opinion.
I mean, that's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
Selling all your Bitcoin on quantum concerns? They sold
Yeah,
all
I
their
mean-
Bitcoin. And by the way, George, 10% in a portfolio like this, that's massive. That's somebody who was like a true believer.
That's like saying you want to get out of AI because of your freshwater concerns.
Right. Yes.
That would actually make more sense,
You're right.
because it's quantifiable. The
Yeah.
only thing I can say is there's a sucker every day, Tom.
Listen, everybody's free to put their money wherever they want. And if this person's number one concern is quantum computing to the extent that they sell 100% of their Bitcoin, well, then that's, it's their decision. That would not be my decision. Jason, Jason, who's a member, said after he wrote that article, he, quote, secretly bought more Bitcoin in a private account, most likely. He did that to short the market. So, I mean, you can't help but have those thoughts run through your head when you see something like this. Somebody really go do that? Or is this just FUD? Or both? Yeah, they want people buying the golden rug tug. So, gold has been on fire. Silver, whatever's more than on fire, well, that's what silver is right now. Pull back a little bit today, but I mean, silver.
I wonder, who do you think wins? Does Bitcoin win over gold and silver?
In my opinion, over a 10-year period, 20-year period, 30-year period,
10 years, yep.
Bitcoin wins over every one of those time frames, and I don't think it's going to be close. And that doesn't mean gold is an awful investment or silver, although silver and gold just ran up so radically, I would be hesitant to buy in right now. This might not be the best time. Or if you do so, maybe you would consider a dollar cost average strategy to average in over time, because, I mean, I just want to take a look at these real quick because they're pretty shocking. This is silver. This line right here at 49. So I have a line of $49.83. That is because in April of 2011, almost 15 years ago, silver hit a new all-time high, and it was at $49.83. It hasn't been back there since. And for the most part, you'll see it's down. I mean, you're under $20 here in 2022. There's years of this, years and years. You're at $15 silver. It just keeps going right there. You got to go all the way back to April of 2011. And that was an outlier. It was a huge, massive run up to get to that. Well, you could forget that because we're at $90 right now. And this happened, practically overnight.
It didn't happen overnight. Everybody on the chat was talking about it.
Well, it's been happening.
We talked about it for about a year before it happened.
We talked about silver at $26. And we talked about it a bunch, but I don't think any of us talking about silver at $26 thought it was going to 90.
Oh yeah, we did. I don't think it's over with, Tom.
Well, you've been saying that. You think it's going a lot higher, and so do some other people. I will tell you, when I thought gold was a buy at 26, and by no stretch of my imagination did I even think it was going to get back to this 2011 number, because we just haven't been back there. And it wasn't until October, it wasn't until a few months ago that we took that out. And when we did, we almost immediately doubled it. Right? We're not quite double right now, but very close.
Now, I would imagine that silver will come back down to a more realistic number.
This is what I'm saying.
It's done running.
I wouldn't back up the truck at 90. That's all I'm saying. Everybody can do whatever they want, but I would have liked to buy, we talked about silver and gold going on a run. We did an article the first day it went over 2,000 in this recent run, which was a couple of years ago now. Somebody put out an article, there will never be another day where gold is under $2,000 ever again. And I kind of laughed at that because, then all of a sudden for the next 2 months it was under 2,000, but not laughing anymore because if you look at gold, it's at 4,595, bouncing around the last 4 or 5 days at or near its all-time high, right? It plateaued in the $3,300 range at a new all-time high. And remember, this is from January of 2024 is when gold was at 2,000. It's at 4,600 now. So silver,
silver makes sense to me. Gold does not make sense to me.
I agree. The run up in silver has more basis in reality, in my mind anyway, than. And I think gold should have had a nice run, but this isn't a nice run. This is 150% run to the upside. You just don't get those in commodities in silver and gold. Right? This is supposed to be slow and steady wins the race. Now, maybe if you look at it over a 30-year period, this averages out to a slow and steady, and it just happens in bursts. But this was a monster move in silver and gold, and there's a lot. You're not the only one, George, and you've been saying for a while you think silver's going a lot higher. The numbers that I've heard on silver, I won't even say. But there are people that are mind-bogglingly optimistic on silver.
Well, I think, I thought gold would make 5,000, no problem. 5, 6.
Yeah, and it's knocking on the door.
6, 7, maybe.
I think all those things are absolutely in play.
Now, doesn't it get real interesting with Fort Knox and our debt when gold gets to, let's say, $8,000 an ounce?
Well, let's put it this way. However much was in Fort Knox, if there was $2 trillion in Fort Knox, without adding a bar, now there's $5 trillion. Just on price action. And I'm using arbitrary numbers because I don't know what's in Fort Knox. I don't know that anybody knows.
I don't think anybody knows. I think Trump probably went to open the door and said, "Oh, son of a bitch. Where's the gold?"
We'll circle back around to that one later.
Let's go to Venezuela and get their gold and put it in Fort Knox. I heard they got a lot.
There's rumors about their Bitcoin. We'll see how that plays out. So far, that's still in the rumor column. But the oil they're already selling. So that's not a rumor. Let's take a look at what actually happened this week before we go on, because I want to show you what has happened this week and so far year to date with Bitcoin. Understanding year to date means today, January 16th. So that's 16 days. So this is this week. From last Friday to this Friday, BitDR's up 38%. The members know I've been pounding the table on BitDR. I've been dollar cost averaging into BitDR. The last two that I've been averaging into are BitDR and Marathon, and this just seemed like it was priced for stupidity. I don't understand it. Again, none of this is financial advice. Do your own due diligence, especially after a 38% run-up. So maybe today's not the best day to start buying BitDR, but Monday was because you're up almost 40% in a week. By the way, that's not alone. IREN and RIOT were both up 26% this week. RIOT on news that we will talk about shortly. We'll do that next. RIOT got some deal flow going. They're up 26% this week. IREN is just sympathetically up on the deals going because, IREN is one of the leaders in data centers. And to IREN's credit, as I made fun of them 3 years ago, when they said, we do not consider ourselves a Bitcoin mining company. We consider ourselves a data center company. We are better than everybody else at building data centers. It's our area of expertise. And I said, how's a company that has 100% of their revenue from mining Bitcoin say they're not a Bitcoin miner? But you know what? They saw what was coming, and they are now by far the biggest market cap Bitcoin miner, by far. And they went from in their first $500 at the market offering, which was a couple of years ago. And remember, they ran from 5 exahash to 50 exahash in like a year. It was unbelievable. They went from like a $220 million market cap to a $20 billion market cap. They topped out at, they've pulled a little bit off of that right now in like 2 years. All right, I'll go. Let me see if I can find. I have this open. I've shared this many times. This was just one trade. I got rid of my MicroStrategy on April 23rd last year. So that is now, got to change this to the 16th. That's now 268 days ago. Since I sold my MicroStrategy's down over 50%. So that money would have gotten brutalized. I basically split it, other than this 3% that I put into Riot that was left over. I put the majority into IREN and then some into Hive. So the Hive has done okay, right? It's up. I bought it at $1.71. It's at $3.47. That's pretty good. It's up 102%. My IREN is up 837%. In the same time, what was MicroStrategy and is now Strategy would have been down 50%. So you can only imagine how dramatically this impacted this one deal, this one trade. And I very rarely, and I point this out because I almost never make trades. I dollar cost average into things and then take profits when I feel like it's time to take profits. The only time I make a trade is when I feel like there's a fundamental change in the narrative of a company and it's running into a problem. And it just seemed crystal clear to me that MicroStrategy was in that position. And it's just super lucky that at that moment in time, IREN had nosedived to $6. You couldn't give away a share of IREN. So, and they're at almost 60 right now. So this is crazy. And I don't think they're done. I think most people, well, we'll do the next poll and see what people think, whether it's up or down for IREN from here. But you had a lot of people had to dollar cost average in and grin and bear it while IREN crashed down to $6. I'm fortunate, and all my other positions are dollar cost averaged into. So, like I bought Hive at $1.71, but I already had some Hive, so this was just a dollar cost average. And Riot, I bought a tiny bit that was 3.4%, so that's almost none of my Riot, but it's all of my IREN, and that little bit is now the biggest thing I have in my whole portfolio. It's crazy, right? It passed all the other things that I've been dollar cost averaging into anywhere from 1.5 to 4 years. I did one purchase of this one time, and it's worth more than all of that. Not all of it put together, but it's now it's the biggest holding I have. Sourmelon Gaming, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for being a member. How is CleanSpark only $13? What's the holdup? CleanSpark had some news. CleanSpark's only $13, but I will tell you, they are on the move. They're not off to the races yet, but they bounced off of this line of support that I had here at just over $10. And now you can see 3 days in a row here, they've candle wicked up, not quite on this day, but today included, they've candle wicked up to this point right here. I'm looking for them to flip this back into support and head back up, right? They were just at almost $24 in October. So they're at $13.37 right now. I would expect them to be up to 24 sooner than later. And their high, 24.72. That's not their all-time high. That was March of 2024. So that's this cycle's high. And I expect them to take out this cycle's high. Now, they were a $40 stock way back when, but it's almost apples to oranges to compare them to the year 2020. But I think it's very fair. This was a few months ago. This was October, the middle of October. So the thought that it would, that's just a $10 jump. I think that's waiting to happen. So, but again, probably not going to be in a straight line, right? We don't see a lot of straight lines on here. We see a lot of up and down. So, but I think the next move is up. That's just my opinion. But I think we got to reestablish this as support and then see if we can move up from there. And it'll pop when it pops. That's the hard part of this. It's the waiting game. It just is. Let's see, a couple people commenting on gold. Cobble Creek, Alaska has arguably the biggest gold and copper deposit on Earth, but it's unlikely that stock ticker NAK ever gets a mining permit. You know that's an issue with a lot of these rare earth materials is getting permits to get access to them, and some are easy access, some are incredibly difficult to access. A lot of the gold is just, and silver is just a byproduct of mining something else altogether. So, but it adds up to a lot. And Gambit Beer, thanks for being a member, is saying Greenland has lots of gold. Well, there you go. I won't even do a poll on that one. We'll just...
Tom, we're at 66 likes. We're getting there.
Oh, smash the like button. Help us. Help us help Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Will quantum computers negatively affect Bitcoin? So 24% said yes. 76% said no. So 3/4 of you think this is not a problem. I'm with you guys on that. And I mean a true effect. So I'm not going to obsess over this because I have before, but I do want to show you guys a couple little things. Take me a second to find them. Okay, so you can see this is not a narrative I'm making up. I just grabbed a couple of articles, but there's been hundreds and thousands of articles written on this and segments on, CNBC, etc. Quantum computing threatens the $2 trillion Bitcoin network. BTQ Technologies says it has a defense, so somebody wants to sell me something. Post-quantum algorithms employ the same sort of encryption mechanism and interface as today's digital signatures, but with more robust mathematical underpinnings, the public key infrastructure. So that's true. Getting the Bitcoin community to reach consensus on the need for a hard fork of the network will be a big ask. No hard fork necessary. That will be more than a big ask. It's totally unnecessary, and it's absolute FUD. That's my opinion. You guys can do your own research, but if we have a hard fork in Bitcoin, then count me as ultra surprised because it's just not necessary. But this is their product that they're trying to pitch. This is their company. Simply stated, computer chips based on quantum mechanics can perform some calculations exponentially faster than a traditional processor. Well, that we think will be true if we ever get one to work. So but it's, again, as I talked, for those of you who were here earlier, it's a very narrow scope. There's only a few things, and it's really these algorithmic things that the quantum computers are faster at. And they're not faster because they don't work at all right now. We've had a few tests where people claimed they did one specific thing, but there's no working, there's no large-scale working quantum computer out there that's solving problems. So,
Jason, I believe Tom and I both do not believe there'll be quantum computing. I shouldn't say that. They're going to attempt to do it, and they're probably going to say it, but it's going to be just like AI. Does that make sense?
Right, because AI, I don't know if this is where you're going. I think it is.
Yeah.
What we call AI is not AI. There is no AI right now. But that is not to say, so it's just a misnomer. There are large language models that have predictive algorithms that are stunning, right? We know them. ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini. There's a list. But they're not actual artificial intelligence. And if you ask any of them, are you artificial intelligence, you will get probably a cursory answer first. But if you ask for more detail, you'll get a more detailed answer. But they will tell you unequivocally, they are not artificial intelligence. So if the program themselves is telling you that, believe it. But it's semantics. It doesn't matter. So while there's no AI, there is high-performance computing that's a game changer. Now, quantum computing, I think, stands even far less of a chance of being a game changer because it has such a narrow thing that it's good at, and we're so far away from really, truly getting any of this to operate that I think that it's all pure speculation at this point. But that's not the reason that I'm not worried about it for the block for Bitcoin.
And Gary's trying to get me going. Gary wrote, George, I don't do renovations, but is 2.5 billion to renovate 2 buildings an average price?
Well, where I live, it is.
Can you just imagine?
Don't do it.
I know, I can't do it. Join, become a member. I think you were before at one time, weren't you, Gary? I don't say anything political. Well, I mean, I try not to say anything that doesn't toe the line.
So this is where this is why, let's say I'm 100% wrong and they get all the quantum computers all the way up to where they want, and right, they got 1 million qubits at work, right? Right now they do stuff like 4 qubits. Somebody said they had 1,000 that worked one time for one thing. They need to be magnitudes bigger, and to George's original point, they have to actually work for some period of time. It's not good enough to spend $50 million over the course of 6 months to get it one time to solve one problem, right? That's research and development. That's not a working prototype. But they're saying 2 attack vectors. Quantum computing opens up 2 attack vectors, the ability to derive a private key from a public key. This much is potentially true. So this has to do with your keys and your wallets. So there are already algorithms that they have that are quantum proof. And basically, between now and the time full-blown, fully operational quantum computers come online, everybody's going to have to update their wallet to be quantum proof. But it doesn't require a quantum computer. It just requires a quantum proof algorithm, which is a lot simpler than you might think. But then the second vector of attack, it says, attacks on the network's proof of work algorithm. And here's where it's just straight up false, and you can look this up. Please fact check me. A quantum computer cannot break the proof of work algorithm for Bitcoin. So in other words, a block is solved on average every 10 minutes. If you look at the blockchain itself, you'll see sometimes it's 40 seconds. Sometimes it's a half an hour. So it's not like it's 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, but on the average, it's plus or minus of 10 minutes. And if it's not, then this happens. The difficulty level changes. So here's the Bitcoin difficulty level at 146 trillion. But what you'll see is, for a later conversation, this topped out on October 31st. That's down, down again, and then the next one was almost exactly flat. You can't even see it move, and then down again. And oh, by the way, we're in the middle of the next block, right? We're more than halfway through the next adjustment. And right now, if it was to happen today, it will be 5.8% down again. Now, we'll see what happens. That can change a lot from now till the end. But it's taking 10.62 minutes. So that's too long. It's too hard to mine a Bitcoin. The network is self-correcting so that it will adjust it to what would have been 10-minute average. So that would require a 5.81% decrease in the overall network. That would be down to 137. To put it in perspective, that's down to, so we were at 136 in September of last year. So that would be all the way back to last September, which is over a 6-month period of time. This thing's usually up 30%, 50%. Sometimes it's up 100%. So to be down or sideways is helping the Bitcoin miners a lot. This spiraled out of control. Bitcoin didn't keep up. Bitcoin's way off of its low of 80,000 right now. And the difficulty level is way off of its high of 155 trillion. It's at 146 right now, and it looks like it's going to go down again. We'll see. All of that is to say, you can see a block is solved around every 10 minutes. If they do get the best quantum computer running that they envision, if everything goes right and they create the perfect quantum computer 15 years from now, that's their estimate, that quantum computer would take about 2 weeks to solve one block. In other words, it has no advantage. In fact, it's at a hopeless disadvantage to the actual Bitcoin network itself, to the ASIC miners that are doing that work directly. They are so efficient and the network is so enormous, and there's a reason for that. There's what's, they're called a nonce, which to me is an arbitrary number. There are 2 of them required to solve a block. In quantum computing, once you introduce a nonce, it ceases to have any advantage over a regular computer. Essentially, it has to collapse into a number every single time. It's a brute force. The Bitcoin network is solved by brute force. That's not what quantum computing is good at. It's of no advantage in a brute force scenario. So even if they did one day get this, it will never break the algorithm. It will never hack the algorithm. It's never going to solve a block, never mind take over. So it's just not on the table. That's not one of the possibilities. That's why I say this is all hype. Now, it's not totally made up, because this public-private key thing And your Bitcoin wallet, if they figure this out 10 years from now, we're going to have to update our algorithms. Everybody's going to have to get a new wallet sometime in the next 10 to 15 years. A lot of them are already quantum proof, by the way. But for those that aren't, especially, the old wallets that haven't moved in a long time, they will have to do something. But this is not going to happen. And again, do your own research. It's not that hard to figure this out. It's simple. Just ask, does a quantum computer have an advantage in solving a block on the Bitcoin blockchain? And you'll see that they do not. And if it doesn't say that, let me know, because I'll go through it, because if it doesn't say that, then it's wrong, which, again, to go to the point of large language models, they can be wrong. And this is a popular narrative, so it might give you the wrong answer, because it would rather go make you happy and be fluent than be accurate.
Tom, basically, all you're talking about is, what is it? What do they call it? Hash, the 256, the
That's
SHA.
right.
And they've already quadrupled that to be more complicated.
Right. The difficulty level has gone up so drastic. I'm going to show that over a longer period of time, just so you can understand. If you go to this is just the 3-year chart of difficulty. So we're at 146 trillion. 146 trillion what? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Relative, it matters relative. How difficult is this? If you go back to January of 2023, we were at 34 trillion. We're now at 146 trillion. But let's go further back. There was a big drop. This is May of 2021. Over this 60-day period, China banned Bitcoin mining, and they did get, not all, but they got a lot of their Bitcoin miners to shut down. The difficulty level was at 24 trillion, and it got all the way down to 13 trillion. So from the year 2021 until now, we've gone from 13 trillion to 146 trillion. That's how much more difficult it is to mine the next block. By the way, the reward's cut in half. So when you do so, you get half of what you used to get. So you can see the economics of this. And you can see if that's what's happening now, what's the network going to be at by the time a quantum computer comes around? It already takes, if they ever figure out how to do one, it would already take them weeks to solve a block. And the network's just going to be that much bigger and stronger 10 years from now. So that would be my opinion on the quantum situation. And that talking point isn't going anywhere for years. You are going to see article after article after article about. Now, here's the thing. I have not done enough of a deep dive on, let's say, Ethereum. The key to Bitcoin is its proof of work. And that changes the equation dramatically. So I can't even speak to whether or not Ethereum could be broken or Solana could be broken, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't seem like it from what I see, but I would not speak, definitively on that by any means. But it is a different mechanism. Jason said the big short guy probably paid to write that article before he shorted the market. This is what I don't know. I don't know why there's 100 articles. Maybe because, it was the title of my video today. Because I wanted to finally talk about this, because it is like the mother of all talking points around cryptocurrency. This guy at Jefferies went from a 10% position in Bitcoin, which was likely his biggest position in his portfolio, to a 0% position in Bitcoin because he's afraid of quantum computers. So to me, that's being afraid of the boogeyman.
Boogeyman.
Let's get to Riot made a deal. Let's talk Riot. Riot announces fee simple acquisition of land and first data center lease with AMD at the Rockdale site. Data center development and a hyperscale leasing opportunity unlocked via fee simple acquisition of 200 acres of land underlying Riot's Rockdale site. I'm just hitting their bullet points right now. Data center business firmly and rapidly established via execution of lease with AMD at Rockdale site with expected delivery beginning in January of 2026. Well, that's right now, believe it or not. The future is here. And completing in May of 2026. So they went from no deals at all to a deal that's kicking in immediately. Data center portfolio of 1.7 gigawatts of fully approved power capacity in one of the leading data center markets in the U.S., which is Texas. They have two facilities in Texas. One's a gigawatt, one's 700 megawatts. And they're allocating, let me see if it says here. The signing of a data center lease and service agreement with Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, a leading innovator in high-performance computing, graphics, and visualization technologies at the Rockdale site, which includes an initial deployment of 25 megawatts of crucial IT load capacity to be delivered in phases beginning in January 2026 and completed in May 2026, with the potential for additional expansion of up to 200 megawatts of critical IT load. I think this is potentially a $1 billion contract. I thought it said that in here somewhere. Hold on. That's okay. So they bought the site for $96 million. So they just bought it. They sold 1,000 Bitcoin. Somewhere here it says they sold like 1,080 Bitcoin. Remember, they had a lot of Bitcoin. They still do. So they sold some of it, bought this, and this is what they're doing with it. Riot intends to convert the full 700 megawatts of gross power capacity at its Rockdale site for data center tenants. So 700 megawatts of capacity is billions and billions of, that means that they are going to have far more revenue in data center than they will in Bitcoin mining. Now, if Bitcoin all of a sudden runs to $5 million, obviously that'd be a different story. But all other things being reasonably equal, this is a massive move for them. And now it's not theoretical anymore. Now they got a client. They got a deal. So my thoughts on this is good. And here. Riot was up 16% today. So, I mean, you tell me if this was good or not. The market thinks so. It was up Riot's up 16% on this news. And then if we go to Riot's chart, like look at this day. And then this is December 31st.
That's some big legs.
So this is one day more than the year to date. But if I go from December 31st until now.
Is that my number one fan?
That's a 52% move to the upside in, call it 2.5 weeks. So Riot's on fire. So I think this is a good deal. I think they passed another line here. If they can turn this into support, right? I think Riot has room to the upside. 23 is going to be, I think, a pretty significant line of resistance. And I don't think they're going to be done there, but I think that'll be, that's their high. of this whole cycle.
What?
I think they'll get some resistance there.
I don't
They
know.
did get up to 46 late in the previous cycle, but they also got up to 80 early in the 2020-2021 cycle. So this was a much, much higher company. 80's not even on my radar, but for now, the 24 is in a big way. So I like what Riot's doing. I think that was some proof of, more than proof of concept. That's a real deal. And that's 25 megawatts. They got 700 megawatts that they're allocating to high performance computing. They also have a gigawatt that's doing Bitcoin mining that could be converted. Yes, there's a bunch of money that it would take to do that. You just don't switch out one machine for the other. But they have the power agreements. They have the power in place. They have the data centers in place. They would just have to be retrofitted to go from ASIC miners to high performance computers, which costs a lot of money, but the power's there. And depending on just how much this all heats up, I think you're going to see more and more of these companies, at least for the moment, they've all taken their gas off of buying more Bitcoin miners. So I've said I don't think anybody should buy a Bitcoin miner until just before the next halving, because the technology continues to get better and better. So if you buy the ones you buy today are most likely going to be nearly obsolete by the next halving. So I would just skip it and wait for it. For those that have already gotten themselves into the 40, 50, 60 exahash range. That's big. That's enough in my opinion. And Jason, thanks for being a member, said their CEO looks like a genius now. Riot has more watts than IREN. So, and to be fair, there was an advocacy group that came in, bought a big chunk of stock, and pushed. They pushed for this. Now, the board and the CEO should get credit because they moved. They said, we'll take a serious look. They took a serious look and said, you know what? You guys are right. We should be allocating some of this energy to data centers. And they did that. And it's paying off now. So, yeah, I think that they did the right thing. There's a lot of upside. I think these companies, to whatever extent possible, should remain hybrids if they can. Because, Bitcoin, in my opinion, is going up an awful lot from here over time. So, I wouldn't abandon ship, but some of them already have, and some of them will. Bitfarms has basically said they're already taking stuff offline. They're just going to be a high performance data center company, and that's okay. I think they'll be profitable that way. That's going to work for them. TeraWulf has backed off of their Bitcoin mining quite a bit, but they were an early mover on the data centers. CIFR, IREN was an early mover. So those guys have already had nice runs. So let's just take a quick look. Let's go to year to date. So this is 2026. Remember, year to date is 16 days. So that's a good looking chart. Bitcoin's up 9% in the last 16 days. The worst Bitcoin miner is up 21% so far. And that's TeraWulf. And they had already had big run-ups. Marathon, 27%. Bitfarms, 26%. CIFR, 27%. HUT, 30%. This is in the last 16 days. This is month to date. Cleanspark, 32%. Hive, 34%. BitDR's up 41%. And oh, by the way, Riot's up 52%. And IREN's up 53%. That's in 16 days. So when we talk about volatility, this is what we're talking about. Sometimes it works in your favor. Like this is massive volatility to the upside. But don't be surprised if there's not some price to pay in the short term, on the other side of this. So I would just say watch out either way. Please do your own due diligence. None of this is financial advice. We're just trying to give you as much information as we can. And the reality is these companies, these Bitcoin mining data center companies, are off to the races so far in 2026. Let's take a look. This was the final for 2025. So you can see this was some hit and some miss. To go to the extremes, IREN was up 285% last year. CIFR was up 218% last year. Those were the big winners. Conversely, Marathon was down 46% last year. In a year where Bitcoin was down 6%. Marathon was down 46%. BitDR was down 48%. So you really had two outliers on either side. You had a couple other companies here that pulled a double. Hut and TerraWolf pulled a double at least in 2025. That's a strong year, especially in a year where Bitcoin's down 6%. And then you had Riot up 24%, so-so. Cleanspark up 10%, so-so. Hive down 9%. In a year Bitcoin's down 6%. That's not a big deal either. So last year was a mixed bag. This year, way too soon to start talking any trash. But the first 16 days of this year have been a home run. So let's see if we can keep it up.
Do you think they're just going to do it to us again?
I think that profit taking is going to occur. When you get a 53% run up in 16 days, you're going to get some profit taking. But like if I were to look at IREN, so IREN in 2025 was up 285%. And now it started 2026, it's already up another 53%. But if you were to go to their chart, in November, 2 months ago, this was a $76 stock. So they just ran up huge. Look at this huge green candle today. That got them to just under $58. They got almost $19 more to go just to get back to where they were a couple of months ago. Now, that was their all-time high. Unlike most of these other companies, which have not reached their high from the 2021 cycle, IREN's blown way past that. So this is their all-time high. But I know that most of us thought, when IREN hit 76, well, I'll give Sourmelon, if he's still here, credit. When IREN was in the 20s, he was calling for IREN to go to 100. And then it ran almost straight up to 76. And then we got a big pullback. So you had to wait for it, right? It went back down to 35. Now it's up to 58.
He was wrong.
Well, he didn't say it was going straight to 100.
No, but I haven't seen 100 yet.
We'll do a very quick.
It's funny because you can almost see the setup. But that's all I'm going to say.
So let's just see what you guys think. A quick poll. That's a misspelling. Will IREN hit $100 in the year 2026? So that's the rest of the year. It's got a long way to go. It's only at $57.82. 2 months ago, it was at $76.87. That's its all-time high. Is it going to blow by that and get to 100 this year? What do you guys think? What say you, George?
Yes.
$100.
Yes.
$100 this year.
I think it ends up at 100. I don't think it ends the year at 100. I think it ends the year back at 75.
Right. That's a good point. Those are two very different questions. Where we are on the specific December 31st is a different question than, where's it going to peak in 2026?
I'm putting my Cybertruck experience up on Yak Yak.
And Jason's saying Riot has more watts than IREN. So they're at different points in their cycle. IREN has an awful lot up and running. They both have a lot of infrastructure to add. And IREN has a pipeline of energy that they have access to purchasing, but that they've locked down. They've got on lockdown, but it's going to take money to purchase it and build it out, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, Riot has 1.7 gigawatts, 700 megawatts of which they've allocated to high performance computing. Now, they just got their first real contract, but I think there's going to be more to follow. I think, that's the beginning of a bunch of good news.
All right.
And Dan, thank you for being a member, and thanks for the super chat. Mara stock at 2250. My sell order ? Easy thoughts. I mean, if we take a look at Mara, so that's basically back to its October high. And the question is, does somebody want to try to wait for it? This was October of 2025 at 2350. So Dan's talking about getting out $1 under that just in case. In November of 2024, a year earlier, it did get up to $30. In 2023, in February of 2024, it got up to $34. So that is the cycle high. So 2250 in my mind, in my opinion, that's not a big giant price target. So if that gets you out, if that makes you money and that's what you want to do, I mean, I don't think that's a crazy price target in my opinion. Right? It's been higher than that once, twice, 3 times in the last couple of years. Will IREN hit $100 in 2026? This is overwhelmingly yes. 85% say yes. If you have not done so, please consider smashing the like button. It's free to you, and it helps us a lot.
Up to 83.
83. We're not going to make it. It's already just about time to call it. We're shooting for 100, and we're at 83. Our goals are low.
I remember when we used to be like 200.
500.
Yeah.
But these stocks are out of favor. Everybody's bored of Bitcoin. They're on to other things.
This is what I just think that everybody's going to be wrong about Bitcoin miners. Because how can Trump say the one thing that he wants crypto, the United States, to be like the
crypto
guardian keeper, so to speak? You know what I mean?
He went all the way hyperbolic and said he would like to see a world where the United States mines 100% of the Bitcoin, which is not reasonable. It's not realistic. I'm sure he knows that, as do all of you. But to George's point, he wants as much of the Bitcoin mining to happen in the United States as possible. And policy is likely to reflect that. I mean, I think that's where you're going, right, George?
Yeah, yeah.
So that bodes well for Bitcoin miners. Yes, his kids are minority interest holders in ABTC. Right? That's mostly owned by Hut 8. They still own a majority of that company to the point where they consolidate it. And that's not to say, that even prior to the election, it was crystal clear. All those statements were made. Trump showed up at the Bitcoin conference. This was an administration that made it clear they were going to be Bitcoin friendly. I'll show you one other article because it goes right to the difference. Here, House Democrats slam the SEC for dropping crypto cases with Trump ties. In a letter on Thursday, lawmakers accused the SEC of enabling a pay-to-play dynamic after dropping cases against Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, and Justin Sun. I mean, Coinbase? It is the opinion of most people in this space that these lawsuits were egregious to begin with. To say that it's a pay to play. They dropped him for pay to play for nefarious reasons. I don't know what path you have to follow to get from that A to Z. Right? We were scratching our heads on the Coinbase lawsuit. What is it? So, yes, the new administration dropped it. But it's not like they snuck up and dropped it, because they ran on being friendly to the cryptocurrency. They are anti-CBDC. They do not want a digital dollar, and neither do I. And my guess would be
one.
Well, if we get one in a world where Bitcoin is thriving and there's all kinds of alternatives, and that's one of them, but if we have an administration that is suppressing the cryptocurrency universe, Choke Point 2.0 was real, and and pushing the digital dollar instead, that's not a world I want to live in. I mean, I'll live in it versus not being alive, but I would prefer this, where the free market, rules need to be created. The legislation is once again totally sideswiped, and I don't know when that's going to go through. I'm starting to get skeptical. Democrats put a letter out today that said they are serious about helping to get this bill passed. So I'll take them at their word and hope that that happens, and hope that the government doesn't shut down before that happens, and then we got to wait through that whole process. The sooner the better. And Gary's saying IREN made $7.3 million in Q3 2025, projecting $3.4 billion of AI revenue by the end of 2026, a 466x. Yeah, I mean, and this was their plan, and they executed their plan. Just like their plan was to get from 5 to 50 exahash. That seemed crazy in 1 year, but they did it. And then this was their plan. They then said, we're done. And they didn't then say that. Actually, when they said we're getting from 5 to 50, they also said, we're going to stop at 50. And every Bitcoin we mine is going to go to build out infrastructure for high performance computing. So this was the roadmap they laid out, and they are walking the path, which is why they are by far the number one market cap company in this space. And they were by no means that, right? They were not in the top 10 2.5 years ago, and now they're number one by a mile. So they've done an outstanding job to their shareholders. I shut the poll down. Will IREN hit 100? 86% say yes. George, I have one thing to say.
What? Go Bills!
You beat me to it. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
We got to say it for as long as we can. We might not be able to say it next week.
Well,
so
I heard a little story that Josh is really hurt.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like he got banged up big time.
But they're not. I mean, he's going to play, but.
Oh, you're not keeping him off the field.
I know.
Well, we'll see. Go, and of course, go Bitcoin. Let's hope Bitcoin holds this week, maybe or over the weekend, maybe even move up a little. Let's see what happens. We're back in a mode, by the way, just before we go. There is one more thing we should look at, which is here's the ETFs.
We didn't do any Polymart things today. Oh my goodness.
I know. There's a lot. There's so much. There's too much to get to everything. December was a massive outflow for the Bitcoin ETFs. I think the biggest outflow month ever. But here, January 12th, 116 million inflow. January 13th, 753 million inflow. January 14th, the next day, 840 million inflow. January 15th, 100 million inflow. So today we don't know, but that is a nice run.
We're end on this. We bought snake oil. No, we were going to go, but we were afraid we were going to be disappointed.
Yeah, we chose the comfort of, well, a bar, actually. All right.
Nelson, I just have to answer. Nelson, pay for views, Sonny? Well, if we're going to pay for views, you would think we'd pay for a lot more.
I don't even know what that means, but
I don't either.
Good luck
and then
to that person.
404 to Zips. Okay.
A lot of stuff going on there.
A lot of stuff going on. Tom, have a great weekend. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you Tuesday.
Thank you, George. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. Thanks. Special thanks to the members. Thanks to the subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, you can consider, if you enjoyed this, hitting the subscribe button. For the members, we will see you guys on Tuesday. Go Bitcoin. Have a great weekend.